Hey kids, it's Miss Otero. I'm sorry that you are having such a problem with all this information. I am creating videos to help you, so please check your Edmodo account online to get the copies of the videos so you can get help at home. I'll also put tutorials for your homework after the PowerPoints. So I'll put both videos up, and your substitute or your substitute for your substitute should have access to both of these. Please, please, please attend tutoring with other teachers if you can in the morning or after school, because they can help you if you're having trouble, okay? I'll be back in January, okay? And then I'll help you catch up if you're still having any kind of issues. First thing we need to review from last class is, I know it was kind of overwhelming because you didn't have somebody to really explain it to you, is the vocabulary. You have heterozygous and homozygous, okay? You've seen the root of these before. I know that you've seen hetero before, and if you use your vocab sheet, hetero means different. Let me change my pen color, hold on. Okay, heterozygous, we're talking about something that's different. Okay, which means that you're going to have, when you're looking at your letters, because you should have done, or at least attempted your homework from last class, means different. So that you, when you're looking at your letters, you're going to have a big letter and a big letter. A big letter and a small letter. So uppercase and a lowercase. And they will look different, okay? Homozygous, homo means the same. I know I've taught you that before I left. It means the same. And so you're going to have a big letter, or a little letter, little letter. So you're going to have a big, big, or you're going to have a small, small. And I'll give you examples of all this when we get to your homework from last class, okay? But for right now, just bear with me as we're going over the vocab. All right, now we're talking about genotype. If it asks you what a genotype is, genotype are the letters, okay? So, for instance, if it's talking about G's, it could be big G, little g, little g. It's the combination of the letters, okay? And then another combination would be two bigs, okay? Phenotype is going to be what it looks like. What it looks like, okay? It's the physical characteristics. Okay, and then you've seen the word alleles before because I taught you that as well before we left. And that is, allele is a different version of a gene. Let me type it and then I'll move it around. Different version of a gene. So if we're talking about the gene like hair color, you would have brown hair as a version, okay? Blonde hair, black hair, red hair. Those are different versions of the hair color gene, okay? Then the last two vocab words that you really need to know is dominant, which is going to be your big letters, okay? And it means that it always wins, okay? It always wins, okay? Then you have recessive, which is your little letters, okay? And in order for something to be recessive, it needs to have two littles. That's very important. It needs to have two little letters. And it will only show up if there's two, okay? There has to be two. Okay, so going over the vocab one more time. Heterozygous means different, okay? You're going to have one big letter, one small letter. Homozygous is the same, so you're going to have big, big, or little, little. Genotype are the actual letters, so you're going to see the big, bigs, the little, littles, or the big, littles, okay? And then your phenotype is what it literally looks like. So if it's brown hair, if it's yellow feathers, if it's shriveled peas, okay, whatever it is, it's what it looks like. And then alleles are your different versions of a gene. And then your dominant is big, and it will always win if it's there. So even like in my example up here, there's one big, one little. That big one wins, okay? And then recessive is when there's two little letters. So for my instance, it'd be two little g's. Okay. Okay, this hopefully will all make sense once we get some practice in. So if you'll get out your homework from last class. This is what your homework looked like from last class. You had a bunch of word problems, okay? I know it's the hardest one to do. And you also have to do the Punnett squares that go with the word problems, and you have to draw it out, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blank out half of the screen, and we're going to do one problem at a time. It's going to take me a second to do it. Hold on. Okay, this is easier. So when you're looking at your question, it has red eyes, which is dominant, which means that it's going to win if there's two of them, okay? And it also tells you that's a big R, okay? So red eyes are dominant, two brown eyes, which are the little r, okay? Heterozygote fly. Hetero means what? Sorry, let me change that. Hetero means different, okay? So if you're looking at your different letters, we just went over the vocab, which means you're going to have one big, one small. That's for hetero. It's crossed with a homozygous recessive, okay? If you remember, I told you recessive is two small letters. So homo is same, and recessive is little. So you're going to have little r, okay? So you're doing a Punnett square, which means you're going to make your square. You're going to put one of them on the top, one letter here, and then you're going to cross it with a little. When you're using your Punnett squares, you're going to draw it over and put it into that box. So you're going to have big R, little r here, okay? Then you're going to have over here, little r. Then you're going to have a big R from the top, a little r from the left, and then your last box you're going to have a little r, okay? So now what you do when you finish all of this, you're going to look at what percent of the offspring will have brown eyes, okay? It tells you up here, brown eyes are little r's. In order for brown eyes to show up, there has to be two little r's. So the only one where you have two little r's, two little r's. You have one box, two box, okay? You see that? So you have 2RR. Each box is worth 25%. It's like a dollar, and each one is a quarter. So you have 25 plus 25, which equals 50. Okay? So this answer up here is going to be 50%. Okay? Then you have a question where it asks you if the fraction of an offspring will be heterozygous. Hetero means different, so it means one big, one little, and you have two of those as well, but this time you're looking for a fraction, so you count the boxes, okay? You have 1, 2 out of 4, so you have 2 out of 4. Okay? Can that reduce? Yes, it can. So you need to make sure that you reduce it down, and it will be 1/2. Okay? Okay, let's try it again on number 2. Same thing that you're doing. You're going to look and see what it tells you. Long stems are big L and they're dominant. Short stems are recessive. Okay? A heterozygous plant, that means different, which means you're going to have one big, one little. It's crossed with a homozygous dominant. Dominant's big. So you're going to have two big. So big L, okay? Now all you're going to do is draw your Punnett square. You're going to put this one on one side and this one on the other side. You're going to cross it like a multiplication chart. Bring it over and down. Big L, big L, little, big, big, little. Okay. I know I went fast on that one, but hopefully after my explanation on the last question, you should be able to go a little bit quicker. Okay? Now you have to look at your questions. Question A asks you, what percentage of offspring will have short stems? Okay, this is where it gets tricky. So short stems are little L's. Little L's, in order for them to show up, they're recessive. There needs to be 2 of them. Look in your box. Is there 2 little L's in one box? No. So what percent must that be? It's 0%. It's kind of a tricky question. Okay. Now your next question asks you what the ratio, of the genotypes of the offspring. Okay. So you're going to look at the different ones that you have. Okay. You have big, big, right? Okay. You have another big, big. So there's 2 of those. Okay. You have a big, little, and another big, little, and there's 2 of those. So then you can reduce it down 1 to 1, and that's your answer. Okay. You'll get better at this as you go, I promise. Your next question will be number 3. We're going to do number 3, then we'll flip to the back and do a couple more. All right? Okay, here's number 3. Same thing. If you want to go ahead and draw your Punnett square first, you can do that. Okay? So you have your Punnett square going. Then it tells you what is dominant and what is recessive. Okay? And then you have your question. Okay? 2 heterozygous. This kind of makes it easy for you because it's 2 different ones, right? And I told you difference, 1 big, 1 little. So if you have 1 big, 1 little, and it's crossed with 1 big, 1 little, okay? Then you're going to cross those together. So you have big G, big G, big G, little G, big G, little G, little G, little G. Okay? Just in case you're wondering why I put the big one first all the time, it's because it's easier to look at. Okay? So when I'm going through and I'm going to count things, it's a lot easier to keep putting the big first, even if it's big, little, okay, no matter what you're doing, it's easier to put the big one first, so when you're counting, you can keep track of it, okay? So, on to your question. Your question asks you, what fraction of offspring will have gray fur, okay? Gray is dominant, which means that the big one always wins. Even if there's a little one present, the big one will still win, okay? So, you're going to look at and see big one, okay, so that wins. That one's gray. Big one, gray, big one, gray, okay? So how many do I have checked out of my 4? I have 1, 2, 3 checks, right? Out of 4 boxes. So there's my fraction. Okay, 3 out of 4. Now, what percent of the offspring will have white fur? White fur, sorry, I can't talk. White fur is little g's, okay? In order for them to show up, there has to be 2 little g's. Do we have 2 little g's? Yes, we do. Okay? That's the only one that's going to have white fur. Okay? So if you have 1 box, you're looking at percentages, so that should be 25%, because each box is worth 25%. Okay, should be getting easier for you. We're going to do the next 3 all together. Flip to the back of your sheet. I want you to start at number 11. Okay, number 11. Yellow peas are little g, are recessive. Green peas are big G's, okay? 2 plants with yellow peas are crossed together. So, if you draw a small Punnett square, because I'm going to do all of them on the same page, right? Okay. And you have a, 2 plants with yellow peas. So you have little g, right? Because yellow peas are showing up, and since they're recessive, there has to be 2. Then you have little g, cross them all, little g, 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 okay? What percent of offspring will have yellow peas? Well, if the yellow peas are all littles, we got 100%. Okay, what percent will be heterozygous? Hetero means different, right? So 1 big, 1 little. Is there any offspring that's 1 big, 1 little? No. So it's 0. Okay. Number 12. You have allele for brown bodies is big B, and it's dominant, and yellow bodies is little b. 2 flies with brown bodies, and it gives you the thing to cross are mated. So you're going to actually cross both of those. Okay? Big B, little b, big B, little b, and then you're going to cross them. Okay, if you can't go as fast as I'm going, that's okay. Take your time, please, when you're doing this on your own. Okay? Ratio of brown bodies to yellow bodies. So now we actually have to be careful because we have a bunch of different letters going on. Okay? If big B is there, it is dominant and it will win. Okay? So we have 1 big B, 2 big B, 3 big B's. Okay? So you have how many brown to how many yellow? You have 3 brown, right? And make sure this one's a yellow. Little b, little b. Little b is a yellow, if you can read it. So you have 3 to 1. That's how you do ratios. You literally just count. Okay? What fraction of the offspring will have brown bodies? Okay, you just counted. You have 3 brown bodies, right? Out of how many? 4. Okay? Those should be getting easier for you. Number 13. Let me change my pen color. Okay, in this species of bird, short beaks are little L and are recessive to long beaks, big L. A bird that's heterozygous, hetero is different, so big, little. For beak length, it's crossed with a short beaked bird. In order for a bird to have a short beak, there has to be 2. So it has to be little L, little L. Okay? It's kind of no space to draw a Punnett square, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay? Be careful. Erase that. There we go. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're going to cross our short beak bird with our heterozygous bird. Heterozygous goes somewhere, short beak goes somewhere else. Cross them and be careful. Make sure you do a capital letter so you don't get confused. Okay? What percentage of offspring will have long beaks? So you're going to look at your sheet. Okay? You're looking for long beaks, which is a big L. Big L, big L. Okay? So what percent? You have 2 boxes checked, so that is 50%. What ratio of the phenotypes? Phenotype is what they look like. Okay? So we have long, long, and short, short. And we're looking for a ratio. So we have, again, let me look over here. We have a long beak, right? So 2. And short beak, so we have 2. So your ratio will then be 2 to 2, which will reduce to 1 to 1. Okay. If you're still having issues, please see Miss Key or Miss Logan or Mr. Cheviera. Okay? Now we get a little bit more complicated. Now that you've gotten the hang of the regular Punnett squares, now we're going to do a dihybrid Punnett square, which means we're tracing 2 traits at the same time. So instead of just red hair and brown hair, we're now going to do red hair, brown hair, green eyes, and blue eyes. Okay? It'll make more sense after I can explain it. So, the instructions or blueprints for making proteins are found in DNA. You already know this. Okay? We already went over that when I was back. Okay? The information is then carried in the sequence of nitrogen bases, which again, you already know. The sequences of DNA that help to create proteins are known as genes. Again, you know this. So, feels good to go over a couple things that you already know, I know. Okay? So, if you need to, you can pause it because I'm going kind of fast since I already ate up a bunch of time explaining your homework. Different versions of a gene are called alleles. Again, I already retaught you that in the previous slide. You would find the eye color gene in the same place for everybody. Okay? But some people have different versions. So some people will have green eyes, and some people will have blue eyes, and some people have brown eyes. Okay, look around the classroom. There's different eye colors everywhere. Dominant alleles are always expressed. I already told you, the big one always wins. Okay, they're represented by a capital letter. That's why I call it the big one, is because it's a capital letter, so the big one wins. It's easier to say. Okay, so dominant, big letters. Okay, they kind of overtake the smaller letters, big letters win. Recessive alleles are only expressed in homozygous, which means same, and recessive. I already told you, we already went over that on your homework. In order for a recessive to show up, there has to be 2. Okay? Has to be 2 right here. They are always going to be a lowercase letter. Recessive is always a lowercase letter. Okay? Then you have the combination of alleles. It's a fancy way to say talking about the letters. Okay? We're talking about if it's a big or a little or a big. Okay? We're talking about the letters here. Okay, then you have the phenotype, which is pheno, like physical characteristics, pH. Okay, physical appearance, what it actually looks like. So because this is your letters, that's what it looks like. Because that's your letters, that's what it looks like. Okay? Genotypes, letters, phenotypes, what it looks like. Okay. Now we get a little bit more complicated. Dihybrid cross involves making the predictions about 2 traits. Okay? We're going to do a different Punnett square for each trait. Okay? Very, very, very important. You realize that the same letters have to go on the same Punnett square. So you're only going to have G's here. You're only going to have B's here. You're never, ever, ever going to make B's and G's on the same box. Okay? Never in the same box. So when you're looking at something like this, you're just going to cross it like normal, okay? Which is easy, because we just got done doing that in your homework, right? Sorry, it's kind of hard to write with my finger, okay? And make sure you go a little slow if you need to go slower. And then you're going to cross these over here. Never, ever, ever put them in the same box together if they're not the same letter, okay? You have a G box and you have a B box. Now, what you're going to do, the most important rule I already told you is 1 box for each trait. Notice that there's one square that's for fur pattern and the other one is for eye color. They represent the 2 traits of the same offspring. Okay, so this is the same person. If you look down here, it looks complicated, right? But this person has, or this animal, has solid gray fur, okay, because the big G. And the big B represents them having green eyes, okay? And over here, the female has striped gray fur. You see where I'm getting this from? Okay? And green eyes, okay? So, anyways, and figure out how to do this. What trait will appear in all of the offspring? Okay, it already pulls up your answer, but we're going to figure out how it got this answer. Okay, so if you're looking, you're just going to do your boxes again. So you have big G, big G, big G, big G, big G, little g, big G, little g. Okay, we good? Then you have big B, big B, big B, little b, big B, little b, and little b, little b. All right? Now, if you're having issues figuring out what each one stands for, if ever you see a big letter, you're going to use your chart over here. You will always have a chart. And you're going to figure out if you're dominant, recessive, and all of this stuff, okay? And then I want you to write in your box what is going on with each box, okay? So if you have a big G, your trait that you're looking at in your box is solid gray fur. I'm going to put solid. Okay. This one also is a big G. So this one is solid. Alright, next thing, next box, big G. Or sorry, big G, little g. You have solid. Okay. And then the last one is solid. Okay. So you can see all of them have what? Solid gray fur. Okay. We're going to do our next box just to make sure that there's not 2 traits carrying over. So if you have big B's, Okay, look at your chart, and you have green eyes right there. Okay. And then big B's, which means all you have to look at is big one wins, so green eyes. And then big one wins over here, so green eyes. But then you have little B's. Since there's two of them up here, that means that that one has blue eyes. Okay? So, all of the offspring have what in common? Okay? Like I told you on the previous page, all of them will have, it's going to be 100% in one of the boxes. It does not have to be 100% in both boxes. Okay? So, all of them in one box have solid gray fur. The reason it's not the eye color as well is because 75% of them has green eyes. Okay, now we get to do this all over again. Alright, so you have, let me cross it really quick. Okay, now you're going to look at how many different combinations of genotypes can appear in the offspring. You're looking for genotypes, okay? So if you're looking at you're going to do kind of a checklist. You're going to have a big, a big little, or a little, okay? And you're going to do a checklist. And you're going to say, okay, does this appear there? So do you have a big in your green boxes, in your G box? Okay? Yes, you have a big. Okay? So, yes. Do you have a big little? Yes and yes. So, yes, you do. You're just 2 check marks. So you have 2 here. Okay? Then you're going to do your same checklist. Over on your B box. Do you have a big? Yes. Do you have a big little? Yes. Do you have a little? Yes. So you have 3 different types here. Then all you do is multiply the 2 from the G box and the 3 from the B box. And your answer would be 6 different combinations. Okay, phenotypes are a little bit different because you only have to compare the 2 different kinds that it can be. So if you were to do your boxes all over again, you would have solid gray fur over here on all of yours. Okay, or no, you wouldn't. Hold on, let me redo this. Okay. So if you have big G, big G, little G, big G, little G, little G, okay? These 3 boxes have solid gray fur, okay? This one box by itself has striped gray fur. So how many different phenotypes do you have? How many different looks do you have? You have 2, okay? Crossing this box over here, okay? These 3 have green eyes, and this one has blue. So how many different looks do you have? You have 2. Then you're going to multiply your 2 times 2, and you'll get 4 different combinations of phenotypes if you're multiplying your different kinds of looks. Okay? Okay, I'm not going to cross these boxes because you know how to cross them, and it already gives you your answers over here. If you were to cross, you would have half with striped fur, okay, which is where we get this from, and you get 3/4 with green eyes, okay? Then all you have to do is top times top and bottom times bottom. So 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 4 is 8, so your answer should be 3/8. Okay, those are actually easy. Don't get too freaked out. You're not going to have anything harder than 3/4. Okay, last one that we're going to do is multiplying percentages. It's really easy if you just look at the front of it, or you can get out your cell phone and use a calculator. But whenever you're multiplying percentages, you have to remember to change it into a decimal form. So if you have 50%, you're going to move it 2 decimal spots, and it'd be 0.5 times 0.5, okay, which would be 0.25. So you'd actually have, and then you can move it back and be 25%, okay? So I can hear the baby in the background. So what I need you to do now is get out your homework, work on that, and if you're having issues, I want you to finish out the 31 homework first, then work on your 32 assignments, okay? I'm sure that there's one student in the classroom or maybe two that's really gotten this down from me talking. And if you're having issues still, please go to tutoring and see the other teachers for help. Okay, good luck, guys.